Well, Andy and Jerry, thanks again for sitting down with us today. I wanted to talk about Innovature, which you guys recently launched at the beginning of the year. First, what is it?
We created Innovature to have a conversation. We realized that in working with the Biotech Innovation Organization, or BIO, and ASTA, that we need to talk about that evolution of breeding that's going on out there. Between ASTA and BIO, we're talking about plants and animals. We realize that the research that's been done to help us better understand genetics in our communities is important to convey that message to the consumer, important to convey that message to the influences that are out there in the food world today, so that they understand it and they communicate that to their audiences. We see this as a great platform to talk about our planet, our health, and our food. And those are three key pillars for our program we're moving forward.
And so Innovature is a website, innovature.com, correct?
Correct.
And you mentioned the three pillars. And so what maybe is unexpected is that we're talking about animals as a part of the food chain, and how breeding plays into that. Most of the time we separate plants from animals, but how is that conversation developing, and why is it important that that's included?
Yeah, one of the things that we quickly realized as we were doing our work with BIO, jointly with ASTA, is that when we start to take the conversation outside of our industry, and you talk about food and agriculture, most stakeholders view food inclusive of both animal protein as well as plants. Mm-hmm. And so we felt like it was important to be able to address those questions across food and agriculture.
We're a joint community when you think about it. The animals have to have something to eat. Mm-hmm. We're producing the crops from the seeds perspective. Our brethren in the livestock community, whether it's poultry or cattle or dairy or anyone else in the community, need something to feed those animals, to keep them healthy and to raise them to where they want to bring them to the marketplace. Mm-hmm. So it is a very connected community. We believe a lot of the science is very, very similar. Mm-hmm. Some different issues with respect to the regulatory nature or policy nature of the various arenas between animals and plants. But for the most part, the science has been very similar. They track mapping genomes for both animals and plants, and that's where that growth of knowledge has been.
And scientists and breeders have both been able to pick up that science and apply it and, kind of take it to the next level.
And that's what's really great about telling the story.
Yeah.
And you mentioned kind of the evolution of breeding in science. And is there a concern today that scientists won't be able to innovate in the future because of the lack of social license to operate?
That's one of the key things that we wanted to make sure that as not only as an agriculture community, but as a science community, we can help tell that story as to why this is so important and why the urgency is now. When you look at some of the challenges facing agriculture, things like climate change, sustainability, health and wellness and nutrition, all those things kind of come together. And we felt like it was important to create that platform where different stakeholders can come together and have that dialogue in terms of how we meet some of those pressing challenges.
Mm-hmm. And we realized that the methods like gene editing and whatever is next down the road as we continue to understand what makes the plants do what they do, or animals or humans even, we'll continue to see innovation in gene editing in our healthcare, in our pharmaceuticals, treating diseases. It's the same with plants and animals. Animals get sick, plants get sick. We have to have methods to deal with that so the various changes in Mother Nature don't negatively impact farmers. That's why evolution, that's why the breeding is changing. It's trying to keep up because Mother Nature's changing. And that's that opportunity. If the policies are put in place that do limit access to it, it's a grave concern because that really starts to put out what I would call a ceiling on certain parts of science that won't benefit the consumer, won't benefit our health, won't benefit the planet. All of those things that we really want to innovate and want to be able to address issues that would be positive for the environment, will be positive for our health. Those are the things that we're trying to concentrate to help have that conversation about it so people, if they've got concerns, we can address them.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned the word sustainable, and the science really does equate, to sustainable in terms of those future challenges and those goals.
It does. It does. We see it as we have companies doing work in breeding and gene editing in the cover crop community, in pollinators, in grasses and forages. It's across the board. And we see it at our land grant institutions and at the USDA Agricultural Research Service and in our private companies. We see this as a tool that people will be using going forward. But it's like the other tools that are in a scientist's toolbox. We have to be able to map the genome. We have to identify where it is on that genome that we want to make a difference and that we're breeding to. And so that's where we look at this great opportunity to address a lot of problems that are facing society in our future.
Mm-hmm. And let's look at the future and talk about, innovation. And we don't know what we don't know, but it's an arms race to continue that progress. So can you talk to me a little bit about what Innovature is doing in terms of setting up kind of that, is it a policy framework or preparing people for that next wave of innovation? Because, now it's about CRISPR and gene editing, but what will it be 10 years from now?
Yeah, and that's why Innovature is more around innovation. Mm-hmm. Again, not knowing what the next innovation may be, but to create that sound ability to engage and have the dialogue around the different areas of innovation, the science behind that, the importance of the science community to engage in that dialogue, but then do it in a way you can address different audiences. Audience is key. You talk differently to a group of scientists in a science organization than you would to a consumer who's trying to make food choices. And we recognize that we really do have to think about audience and then how we engage in that dialogue.
And Innovature is really that platform to lay all of this out, to have that conversation and allow people to ask questions, have a dialogue. We want to bring everybody in, whether they agree completely, disagree completely, disagree sort of, agree sort of, and have that conversation. It's incredible the amount of scientific discovery that goes on a daily basis in our community. And how do you convey that? Just recently, for example, for 40 or 50 years, breeders have been trying to discover why you would get these off types and all of a sudden have red corn. And what was suppressing the specific genetics of that. And after 40 or 50 years of this, we recently discovered why. When what causes that. It took them that long. And it's all a matter of time, and it's all a matter of that intensity of getting down to the exact part of the gene, the genetic map that causes that one abstract variation within the genome. And so now we understand that, and breeders will be able to breed to that or from that if they're trying to stay away from it. But that's happening on a daily basis in plants, in animals, in humans, and on microbes. And that the discovery helps each step along the way better understand what we don't know today, but may know tomorrow, or may know next year.
It's so awesome, the pace of innovation right now. And I just sat in on the CEPA session, and I believe it was Chris Hawley from Cooley said that, there's hundreds of applications being filed just around gene editing, each month. And when you, kind of put that in perspective and you think like, that's just remarkable. One of the questions that I had for you is Innovature in reaction to FDA's late last year when they announced their action plan on plant and animal biotechnology action plan. I didn't quite get that out right, but
we actually started talking about this Innovature platform over 2 years ago.
Okay.
And it was actually a result of some discussions that we had within the American Seed Trade Association about innovation and communications. And we started talking with Bio at that time, trying to figure out, was there some common ground here in areas we could work together collaboratively.
And we realized, too, we've come a long way in the last 5 years and what ASTA's been doing with the plant side of this, and realized that we needed to go to the next step in our communications with the grower community, from the Farm Bureau to the cattlemen to the dairy industry, corn and beans and produce. We realized that we needed to step up that game to really get information out, and then to be able to have the conversation and to develop that platform like Innovature where people can go, have that dialogue, and really a robust platform for us.
Fantastic. One of the pieces, and we were talking with Brad just a second ago about communications, but is that, and you kind of preluded this during one of our last conversations, but is communications now the largest team within ASTA, and kind of how's that evolving?
Well, the way that we look at it is it's communication responsibility and assets everybody's.
Mm-hmm.
While we have essentially 2 people in our communications shop, everybody has a role within it. And this year, or just last year under Jerry's leadership, communications became its own strategic issue in our strategic plan.
Mm-hmm.
Realizing that it's got to play a role, whether we're talking about our international activities or our activities at state government in the capitals. Everything that we do as an association on behalf of our members has to have a communications component. Who needs to know about what we're doing? How are we going to communicate it? And what's the message or the ask from whoever we're communicating to, so we can go forward. So it is woven through everything we do.
That's a perfect segue into my last question was, is there something that you want the industry to do around Innovature? Is there a call to action for them that's a part of that?
Yeah, there is. And what we're asking folks at this meeting and meetings throughout the rest of the year is to encourage our membership to get engaged, get involved, become ambassadors for the industry. We have these great set of tools that are out there. We have some training opportunities as well, but really take that opportunity and become an advocate for our industry and step it up in that regard.
That's it. Innovature is a tool for all of us to use, and we hope that people will reference it when they're out talking in the community. They'll give us feedback. They'll post things up there if they see something from their local university or land-grant college, or just their community that relates to what we're trying to talk about in Innovature. Really be in the echo chamber that we're looking for. So we think that local voice is key to it. We could talk about it all day long in Washington, but it really needs to be that local voice. And so the more we can get that from the seed community, the breeding community, research community, the better off we're going to be long term.
Thanks so much for sitting down with us today. We really appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you.